Welcome to She's Got Game. I'm Pauline Hendricks.
And I'm Caroline Delaney.
We are about to talk about week one of college football. So, starting off, this was Lee Corso's last
Wow.
college game day, which was bittersweet, but he picked
I
right.
He picked right. I think it was quite possibly the perfect send off in every way, from a storyline standpoint to the way that, first of all, props off to all the producers, everyone at ESPN. I think that entire rollout from everything on their socials to the actual edition of College Game Day was phenomenal. I think they paid tribute to him perfectly. I think another one, big one to give props to is Kirk Herbstreit. You could just see how much that man admired Lee Corso, which is amazing. I think broadcasters and leaders in this industry, really respecting each other is just something really special to see. And it's so organic. And I think also the way that he went out the same way he went in and was correct was also perfect. And I think that also just brings us right to the game, the ins, the outs. I think this game, great kickoff to week one, phenomenal from a play quality standpoint. Couple things. I think obviously great performance from Ohio State. I think the big topic around this game outside of coach is obviously Arch Manning's first road game. Which brings me to my main point, and I'll kind of let you jump in here, are people being too harsh on Arch Manning? I think absolutely. He is a 19-year-old kid, not only starting for the first time on the road, starting for the first time at Ohio State. I think people forget that because he's a Manning, he is still 19. He's still getting the kinks out. He's still getting the grooves out. That's one of the toughest environments to play in college football. So I kind of wanted to let you weigh in on that as well.
Well, especially considering Ohio State was the national champion last year, that's a big stage to play on. And like you said, being 19 and that's your first debut, you can't you can't hate on him. And yes, he is a Manning, but he also still has 3, 4 years to develop into what they hope he will be.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's really debate on that one. I think played out the way it was going to play out. I obviously, great matchup. It was I guess anybody's game. And the fact that it's not like he got in there and choked. The kid did good, right? It just, they weren't the
Yeah,
better team that day. And I think that's the end of it.
I agree. Moving on, the next matchup I want to talk about is Alabama FSU. I'm a I can't say secret fan of FSU, but I definitely have always been a supportive um, bystander of them because in 2023, when they went undefeated, the committee kind of screwed it over. I'm not going to lie to you. They said, not good enough. But I don't know if you remember watching it, but
Here is my hot take on the Florida State University. Not going to take it from them. Great game on Saturday. Not going to take it from them. Great season the year they got screwed. However, to play devil's advocate, this is A, before the 12 team, okay? And B, the whole point of the committee, right, is to obviously we know not make it just based on your record.
mhm,
The other point of the CFP is entertainment and media deals, correct?
yeah,
So,
correct.
therefore, what the committee tries to prevent in the factor of who they send into the playoff is a blowout, tanking ratings, and having an empty stadium by halftime. Would Florida State have done well with the other three teams they would have gone against that year? I don't think so. I think they would have been America and sports media's darlings. I think it would have been the best Cinderella story ever. I think when you actually got to the CFP, I don't think it would have panned out well. I'm so sorry. And I'm not taking the Alabama game from them, right? You also have to acknowledge Alabama is not Nick Saban's Alabama, okay? Like,
Amen.
somebody made a joke online. I was trolling Twitter that whole game. People were saying that this isn't Saban's Alabama anymore. This coaching staff is, people use the term gentle parenting the players. I think that I love the Florida State glaze. Don't get me wrong. I love an underdog. It's actually probably one of my favorite things in sports. However, you do got to take into consideration what's happening on the other side of the field. And
You're
I
not wrong with
don't
devil's advocate.
I
You're not
don't
wrong.
I don't like saying that FSU got screwed because I was heartbroken for them. That is the probably the worst feeling anyone in the city of Tallahassee ever felt that year. However, what happened the next season, right?
I
What
think after the bowl game that they had, that was just an indicator of they are all like they threw in the towel. They were like, why am I doing this anymore? So I
it's the
think, yeah,
I think it's a similar concept to the Clemson glaze when you look at how Clemson plays against SEC schools, which can bring us to Death Valley versus Death Valley in Death Valley.
I when I was watching it, I put down typical Death Valley game because when I've covered the Palmetto Bowl in Death Valley, it kind of panned out the same way. I think the stakes for this game, which is what was talked about a lot, who needed to win more, Brian Kelly or Dabo Sweeney? And Brian Kelly, I think, needed this win to solidify that he is still a good head coach.
Oh, absolutely. That game mattered far more for LSU. I think if you're going to compare stakes, it's what I just said. It's can Clemson beat SEC teams? It goes back to the outrage when Clemson weaseled into the playoff after winning the ACC, and you compare strength of schedule, you compare conference strength, et cetera, et cetera. But it was necessarily, I think because it was Brian Kelly's, in lack of better terms, job on the line, right? Because Dabo is
You ain't
that.
wrong.
Dabo is Dabo. Dabo is always going to be Dabo. There's never going to be a collapse of Clemson, in my opinion. I think, there's a difference between Clemson being the Trevor Lawrence era Clemson and, what we have now. Clemson, like, there's not
Yeah.
going to be a great implosion of Clemson. LSU, you know, Brian Kelly still has something to prove there, right? He is cementing, trying to start a legacy, trying to build himself into the institution that is the Louisiana State University. You can't take that away. Like, obviously, LSU is LSU. But for that
Mhm.
game, you're right. Tensions were high. Clemson did what Clemson has routinely done
Yes.
best. And once again, same thing as Ohio State, Texas. Good game to watch. LSU was the better team that day. Did they maybe want to win a little bit more than Clemson? Probably.
I transitioning into the next game I want to talk about, but when Clemson's playing SEC teams, the handshake deal between you or quote unquote, but UNC and Clemson trying to kind of find their way into the SEC. It was Bill Belichick's first game of the season, his debut in college football, and UNC, I don't even know how to say this properly, but like it was not a great final score. It was 14-48 TCU. And I also kind of always loved TCU too. I think what was it, 2021 or 2 when they were in the college football. Oh,
Use this example. That is why Florida State was not allowed in the CFP. TCU, media darlings. Everyone's favorite Cinderella. Okay. The glass slipper shattered because the glass slipper got just absolutely just punted across that field, right? That would have been Florida State, and that was the cautionary tale that kept Florida State out of the CFP. This is a hill I've screamed at the top of. I'm so sorry to cut us off. The
no,
whole
you're
point is to create, and it's not for the most deserving team, it's for the most
the
entertaining.
media.
I
The poor
digress.
kid.
I'm going to
The
jump off
poor
the soapbox, but
the poor TCU. What a way to kick off their New Year's Eve, their New Year's Day with that. Oh. Poor babies. But last but not least, obviously, on Seahawks, it's a storyline. I love the storyline and the point of what is going to garner the most media attention. This storyline was basically about Shane Beamer and Frank Beamer, who was the head coach at Virginia Tech a while back, and he basically built a legacy there. And that's what Shane Beamer is trying to do here or there at USC. And typical, beginning of the season, working out the kinks. We love Lenoris. He is currently still a contender for the Heisman. We don't know, knock on wood, but our defense was better than our offense, I would say. Virginia Tech did not score a single touchdown, but they kept us on our toes. Our offense, Nick Harbor, who was previously on the track team and looked like he was a potential Charles decided to bag the running and continue with football. We need to work on our hands and catching a little bit more, but he ended up sealing the deal with a touchdown at the end of the game. But really, truly, the storyline is what I want to talk about because I think it's so sweet how it's full circle. It's a full circle moment.
I think every single thing about this like storyline going into this game was absolute perfection. I think the way that it played out, and you can't write a story like that, right?
Absolutely.
Actually, the last college football game I watched with my grandfather was a Virginia Tech game. Beamer had just gotten a coaching job at Carolina, and I remember he sat there and talked to me for probably a half an hour about Beamer ball and how the original Coach Beamer created this entire concept and how amazing it was. And I think that this obviously both teams wanted to win, right? I think something really, really cool about this particular win was it wasn't a ha you lost win. It was a yay we won. And there was still so much respect paid to the Virginia Tech side. I think the greatest two scenes out of that game were at the end. I think Lenoris handing the game ball to Coach Beamer was great. And I also, my favorite thing ever was the clip that came out of Shane Beamer's son running up to him after the game and how there's photos so similar on the Virginia Tech sidelines. I think that's amazing. And I agree with you from a gameplay standpoint. Did we start off sloppy? Yes, but you compare that to the way that we started against Old Dominion last year and how quickly got the cadence down, fixed everything. Not almost everything, but fixed the spots we needed to fix later into the season. And I think anything sloppy, even by the end of the game, was corrected. So I think going into the season, I think South Carolina is going to be a huge contender. I think another thing that came out of this weekend after that South Carolina win and that LSU win is the South Carolina LSU matchup. I think that's going to be like last year college game. I think that's going to be a huge, huge game this season. And yeah, I think everything about that storyline was just I don't want to even use the word poetic, but I think it just was so natural and full circle is the
Wholesome.
perfect. Full circle and wholesome is the perfect. I think that matchup was perfect. I think everything about it, and that's a thing that I love about the South Carolina program. How it is, you can tell just from an outsider, it is so tradition and family oriented from an outward perspective, and
Absolutely.
that game drove it home. It was great. I think it was so respectfully done. I think they by the end of the game they had a rhythm down. They were playing well, and it just was exactly how it needed to go.
I love the last point you made about Shane Beamer's son coming in and at the end of the game, and it's almost like just the same photo as him and his dad when he was at Virginia Tech, and just so cute. It's just so cute.
I know you can't. It's awesome.
All right, so week two starts tomorrow, and I am quite excited for this week's matchups. We will be back to recap and tell y'all our opinions on how the week goes. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See y'all later.
See y'all next week.